Cydonia, Pareidolia, or paranormal. We all are aware of the fact that we are shown exactly what the powers that be want us to see. Occasionally, evidence of something anomalous, which was obtained by an official source, will leak out. Perhaps it was just an oversight, where typically a technician would have airbrushed a detail like that out of an official NASA photo. In 1976, the Viking 2 orbiter captured a photo that perhaps NASA may have intended on not releasing. Who knows? They may have intentionally released it to gauge the impact of an idea like that. In this one particular photo, NASA scientists were confronted with what appeared to be a human face looking right back at them from Mars. The photo was inadvertently released to the public, and it did cause quite a stir. I'd like to present to you what some on the outside of academia think about the Cydonia region of Mars. I'd also like to provide the official positions that science has taken in the matter. In addition, I'll highlight some of the personalities that popularized the subject throughout the 1990s, peruse some of the other strange sights on the surface of Mars, and speculate on what Cydonia might have been and what it was used for. There are, of course, other stories like this that come to mind, where NASA photos revealed more than they wanted to. A book released in 1976 titled "Someone Else is on the Moon" by George H. Leonard uses actual NASA photos to illustrate that there is, in fact, ongoing activity on the moon. How he obtained and photographed these official plates is detailed to some degree in his book. I've also listened to Don Ecker's interview of Vito Saccari several times, and it never fails to disappoint. There's a lot of holes in Saccari's story, and others have pointed out specific details he was wrong about, specifically in regards to details about Leonard's background and his descriptions of some of the NASA facilities.
Coming to you from sunny Southern California, which at the moment looks quite frankly like a third world country. Vito, how the heck are you, buddy?
Saccari claims that while working as an engineer on an international assignment, he was in the unique position to request NASA photos of the moon. He eventually ended up using Leonard's book as a bargaining chip in order to view the photos.
You see.
He said that a lot in the interview, and to me that's kind of the sign of someone trying hard to convince someone else of something. He said NASA was apparently unaware of Leonard's book and the photos contained within. Each photo that is represented in the book is accompanied by an index number. Those index numbers can be accessed through a particular NASA facility. He goes on to say that he did get to see the real photos, and indeed there is much activity clearly visible on the moon. I'm not sure if I believe this story, but man, it's a great tale. It's just a really fun interview to listen to. For years, on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, I found Richard Hoagland's take on Cydonia's layout always captivating, and his campaign to have NASA rephotograph the face was interesting to watch unfold. Hoagland's hyper-dimensional model of the universe, his predictions, and constant promotion of his books over the years proved to be dizzying. I had to jump off of that roller coaster of wackiness at some point. I just couldn't take his brand anymore, I guess. But Hoagland was another one of Art's buddies that pretty much got carte blanche to say any wild thing he wished to millions of people every appearance on Coast to Coast. Those shows in the mid to late 90s were so entertaining, though. Bell and Hoagland had embraced the emerging technology that was the internet and creatively used the medium to tell stories that they wanted to tell. Seriously, at the time, I was taking Hoagland at his word and didn't have any reason not to believe him. I was in a state of mind where I wanted some of my own speculations about these subjects to be validated. I thought, here's a scientist who worked with NASA and with Walter Cronkite at some point in his career. Why would he be feeding me a load of bull? I do think his analysis of the Cydonia region is intriguing. However, in order to keep traffic high on his website, enterprisemission.com, he would often hype some BS theory on Coast. I remember one show in particular where Hoagland proceeded to tell Art about a supposed situation he had found himself in. Hoagland went on to describe his experience of having a heart attack, which was induced by government agents using some sort of technology. He went on to say he was asleep, dreaming, and in his dream, something was scanning his body. All of a sudden, he felt the scan concentrate on his heart. This caused him to wake, finding himself in cardiac arrest. Many of these discoveries Hoagland was championing had previously been discussed by Mark Carlotto in his book, The Martian Enigmas, in 1991, as well as others. But Hoagland did keep the Cydonia torch burning bright through the 90s, with countless coast-to-coast appearances and contributions to the field, like coining the name D&M Pyramid, supposedly the largest pyramid in the solar system, as part of the Cydonia complex. The D&M Pyramid was discovered by DiPietro and Molinar, a pair of astronomer researchers. All of these individuals clearly pointed out many of the symmetries these forms have and geometric relationships between the structures. Yet again, this is another one of those topics that has not been supported by mainstream science, and therefore there isn't any peer-reviewed academic work taking place. That said, the individuals who have looked deeply into this subject find good reason to believe Cydonia may be more than meets the eye. But until we actually send a mission to the region and spend time on the ground, it's only going to be speculation at best. What we do know specifically about the Cydonia region is that it lies on what would have been the shores of an ancient Martian ocean. We also know that Mars was once a habitable planet, just like Earth, with conditions that would support liquid water. All of Mars's water is currently locked in the form of ice at the poles or below the surface. In my opinion, Cydonia and the Face's latest claim to fame is now, unfortunately, they have become the poster child for the psychological term pareidolia. You hear it all over the place now. Pareidolia is the tendency for incorrect perception of a stimulus as an object, pattern, or meaning known to the observer. Common examples are perceived images of animals, faces, or objects in cloud formations, or lunar pareidolia, like the man in the moon or the moon rabbit. The concept of pareidolia may extend to include hidden messages in recorded music played in reverse or at higher or lower than normal speeds, and hearing voices, mainly indistinct, or music in random noise, such as that produced by air conditioners or fans. Pareidolia was at one time considered a symptom of psychosis, but now it's seen as a normal human tendency. Cydonia is chock full of unusual features and uncanny connections between these objects. But once you have written off the Mars face as solely a byproduct of natural geology, which mainstream science basically has, it's not a very big leap for them to say that everything peculiar seen on Mars can be attributed to this natural function of the human mind. Another notable Mars example of pareidolia occurred in 1877 when observers using telescopes to view the surface of Mars thought they saw faint straight lines, which were then interpreted by some as canals. It was theorized that the canals were possibly created by sentient beings. This created a sensation. In the next few years, better photographic techniques and stronger telescopes were developed and applied, which resulted in new images in which the faint lines disappeared. The canal theory was debunked as an example of pareidolia. This can't all be written off as pareidolia. I'm sorry. Just like every UFO sighting in the 1960s couldn't have all been a result of swamp gas or misidentification of planets. Often these explanations are thrown out there to muddy the waters and discredit the witnesses. The Cydonia region has too many coincidental relationships embedded in its overall layout to just be random. I think most of the evidence for a past civilization will be found below the surface anyway. When Mars was habitable, it was likely hundreds of thousands of years ago. The only things that would be left from a civilization from that time would be structures built from existing geological surroundings. Perhaps a few large objects made of other materials may have partially survived, but everything else would have rusted away or completely disintegrated unless protected from the elements. Whatever this area was, it has been abandoned for eons and now covered in a mountain of dust. Some have suggested a massive tidal wave may have destroyed most of the evidence and parts of the structures, and others have speculated about possible nuclear detonations. Many have pointed out the mathematical alignment between the individual structures in Cydonia and the city's overall location on the planet. Apparently, its coordinates hold significance in terms of sacred geometries. Sadly, all of this type of evidence obtained in this manner doesn't amount to much. It simply boils down to taking a ruler and drawing some lines on a photo of Cydonia. I am personally convinced that this site is significant and an important find, if only we could actually study it up close. No one had actually even seen the region in detail until the Viking orbiters sent back their photographs in 1976. NASA's goal was to try to bring back the highest resolution photos of Mars's surface ever taken. And just like when NASA went to the moon and saw some extremely interesting things, it seems NASA at that point always says,
"Okay, we've been there, we've done that. Nothing to see here, folks. Just a bunch of rocks."
None of the rovers that have been sent have landed anywhere near Cydonia. You'd think that since we haven't studied any of the Martian surface in detail until recently, at least one of the rovers could be sent near the region. If nothing else, just do it for publicity and put an old mystery to bed when proven 100% natural landforms.
Case closed.
But they didn't do that. The remaining rover is nowhere near Cydonia, and its nuclear power supply will have expired before it could ever reach the area. 100% natural. These are the eggs of Cydonia Farms. Nothing but the finest Martian crab huevos this side of the solar system. Here's a happy customer preparing his favorite dish with our delicious eggs. Way out there from Muskrat Base 7. Yes, Mars's first official colony. Here's the recipe. 1 fresh Cydonia Farms crab egg, a pinch of Mons salt, a sprinkling of artificial black pepper, 1 tablespoon of shredded cheese replicant, and 1 strip of Mama Tholis's crispy mushroom bacon. Heat for about 5.5 seconds in your handy-dandy Hypo Griddle by the Froth Company.
We love it up here, and I love crab eggs. Thank God, because it's the only sustainable protein anywhere available. Like I said, we like it, love it up here. But they said we can never leave.
Cydonia Farms. Our crab eggs are out of this world. Now with guaranteed 6-day delivery to several major Earth cities. Ask for us at your local food injection site or FIS mobile unit. When someone is arguing in favor of Cydonia being 100% natural, they aren't wrong in my opinion. The whole complex could have been excavated from a much larger original natural formation. A skeptic will not take into account the incredible coincidences. The photos the ESA, the European Space Agency, took of the region in 2006 are unbelievable. you really can get a good sense of the overall layout of the site. You also may start to see some of the finer details. Many of the structures appear to have a dark rim around the base, suggesting possibly hollow interiors or entry points. The collection of strange formations as a whole in one particular area does suggest the possibility of there being more to this than just the official story. I haven't looked back into this topic in decades. There was a period of time in the mid-90s when I was consumed with anything related to Mars. But since that time, there have been numerous NASA missions deploying rovers and sending them to make tracks all over the red planet. Since 2004, NASA has had a constant presence on Mars, and its rover, Curiosity, is still active to this day. With so many chances to capture something intriguing, I'm not surprised at all the weird stuff people have been seeing in some of the photos. Some captured by the orbiting HiRISE camera, and others taken from the rover's unique ground perspective. HiRISE, or High Resolution Imaging Science Experiment, is a camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which has been orbiting and studying Mars since 2006. HiRISE has imaged Mars exploration rovers on the surface, including Opportunity Rover and the ongoing Curiosity mission. There are quite a few images to cull through out there, but it's pretty easy to spot the really compelling ones. My favorite anomalous images on Mars so far are as follows. The crab. This has got to be one of the coolest photos I've seen. In the photo of a rocky outcropping under a small overhang just out of the sun, you can make out a strange object that doesn't really blend in with the other rocky features. As you begin to zoom in, one can start to make out what appears to be some kind of crab-like creature huddled in the crevasse, taking shelter. There have also been several images captured of what can only be described as tree or shrub-like formations. Skeptics will say that these are most likely some geological process that we are unaware of. And the tubular structures that have been imaged are particularly unusual. They have been seen in several different locations and appear to go on for hundreds of miles. And also, here's a good one, the golf ball, or the behemoth geodesic dome in the middle of a crater. It's just another head scratcher. There's plenty of garbage out there too. Anything referring to Mars squirrels, iguanas, statues, humanoid silhouettes, or vacuum cleaner attachments are usually not worth looking into, in my opinion. And I have to admit that those are actual cases of pareidolia. Like I've said throughout, there is no real evidence to support the claim that Cydonia was once a great Martian outpost. In the mind of most skeptics, Cydonia has already been proven to be simply natural features anyway. Here are a few theories. Joseph McMonagle's account during a remote viewing session on the region of Cydonia in his 1993 book, Mind Trek, proved to be a very interesting read. Remote viewing, or RV, is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant, unseen target, purportedly sensing with the mind. His feelings about how RV works is that he is sending himself information from the future. The idea is that he would have known the information at a later time. For example, he was allowed to see the photograph at some point in the future after the session that he was currently in. He can transfer that information back through time, kind of like the way the time was portrayed in the movie Arrival. He is able to describe in detail several different sites in and around Cydonia, and while doing so, got the distinct impression of ancient Egypt on a gigantic scale. The D&M pyramid, for example, is 3 times larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. He went on to even give a report on the race of giant humanoids which once inhabited the area. The impression he received through his RV sessions revealed that a possible natural disaster could have caused their demise. Some have suggested that Cydonia is an ancient abandoned spaceport, with the massive structures serving as ancient spacecraft hangars. Perhaps one day, we'll see. Perhaps NASA's latest rover, Perseverance, landing on the Martian surface in mid-February 2021, will continue to deliver us really cool images, while most likely withholding the ones which are truly earth-shattering. Outfitted with its own helicopter, this rover is intended to pave the way for future manned missions to Mars.